Welcome to Civic Engagement Media. I'm Patrick Gilbert. Joining us today here in the studio is Dr. Alton Smith. Dr. Smith was born and raised in the state of Louisiana, and he had a 30-year career at Shell Oil Company before starting a second career in the world of education. Now he serves as chairman of the Board of Trustees of the Lone Star College System. Dr. Smith, thank you for joining us today.
Well, this is a great opportunity, and thanks for inviting me.
Of course, of course. So you were born and raised in Louisiana, correct?
Correct.
What year was that?
1946.
Okay, so this was
under the administration of Harry S. Truman.
Okay, that's where I was going to go with it. So when you were born in the 1940s, what was Louisiana like?
Well, during that particular time, most of you probably will realize Louisiana was a segregated state, like all of the southern states. And people were separated by race. I don't care whether it was work, they were separated by race. School, they were separated by race. Banking engagements were separated by race. And everything was separated. You had to ride the back of the bus. There were colored and white bathrooms, colored and white seating arrangements on public accommodations, and et cetera. Movie theaters were segregated. Whites were downstairs, blacks were upstairs. And so it was totally no mixing of the race at all. It was against the law. They called it Jim Crow.
So how did that make you feel growing up in that environment?
I didn't know any difference. I was born under segregation. You were taught from the time you came out of the womb that you weren't supposed to mix. And so I was comfortable, with the situation. I didn't know any different. And you knew how to handle yourself, under that particular environment. I didn't know it was any different until I started working. I even went to college. I couldn't go to LSU or Tulane or Ole Miss when I finished high school. It was against the law. So I went to Southern University, which was another all-black environment. I didn't know about integration until I started working with Shell Oil Company. And integration was very difficult for me.
So when you were growing up, did you have friends of other races?
That's strange. Yeah. You played with all kids up until a certain age. And after a certain age, you automatically segregated yourself. Now, nobody ever told you. My best friend was a white guy. His name was J.W. At about 11 years old, J.W. went his way, I went my way. Nobody ever told us we had to, but it automatically happened.
You just kind of knew that that's what had to.
Oh, it was like, yeah, but nobody ever said you had to do that. But at a certain age, we slept together, spent the night with each other, and all of a sudden went, shoot.
Okay, so you and your friends of other races, you didn't talk about school?
No. Never did. We knew it was different because white kids got free transportation. We had to pay.
For the bus to come get you?
Oh, yeah.
That's interesting.
That's the way it was. You didn't know any different. And if you protest, you may not be seen again.
Did you ever hear of any racial tensions where you grew up at?
Well, yeah. Well, I knew of people that protested, they would never be seen again. They were lynched or they were killed or jailed. And so people stayed quiet. Now, things got real vocal, though, in the early 60s, especially when JFK became president, Martin Luther King, and people started getting TVs and et cetera. So all of a sudden you could see stuff as it was happening. Like most of the time, we found out about stuff 6 months after it happened because the people didn't have TV. And we would see James Meredith entering the University of Mississippi, which was Ole Miss. And John F. Kennedy sending in the federal troops to make sure that he was able to survive, going to Ole Miss. And all of a sudden we finally realized there is another world. We were able to see Bull Connors, in Alabama. You can see him beating people on the Pettus Bridge leading to Selma, and et cetera. And all of a sudden you said, man, this is crazy. integration.
And here's a question that I've asked other people about this period in history. What about Hispanics and Native Americans and Asians? Where did they go to school at during segregation?
Well, whites. It was only two races in this country. Hispanic and all that stuff didn't start until in the 80s. It was. If you look at birth certificates, your birth certificate either said Negro or white. I don't care what other race you were. There was only two.
So they went to
They went to the white schools.
Oh, yeah, wow. Yeah, I've heard that in Aldine. Mr. Thorne told me that for Aldine, and then of course in my hometown.
It's all
that's
over
what
the
I
world.
do.
I mean, you look at birth certificates, they don't do that anymore. They put ethnic background on birth certificates now. Back then, you were either Negro or you could be 3/4 white. My grandmother's mother was half white, and her father was white, but she was a Negro.
Hmm.
So, but that's the way it was classified then.
So you mentioned the Civil Rights Act of 1964.
Yeah,
And that, obviously, the Brown case was 10 years earlier.
yeah, I remember the Brown case too.
Do you? So what was the mood when the Supreme Court decided the Brown case?
Well, our white brethren became very hostile, and I remember I was a little kid, and that was back in the 50s. They always wanted to see my NAACP card. I didn't know what NAACP was. You N guy, you got an NAACP card. Let me see it. I said I didn't, and so it was. And folks would come by your house. My mother was a very strong woman, and for some reason, black women back then in my environment were more proactive than the guys. They would tell the officials off.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, and so she protected us from being taken places at night. They'd come by and say, "Hey, can I use your boy to help me do so and so and so and so?" Oh no, no way.
So they had an ulterior motive if they wanted to come
Well,
get
we
you.
assumed. Well, I found out later on that's the reason why my mother did, because people would go off and never come back again. I had friends that would just disappear.
Mm-hmm. And they never found them?
They would find them later on, but then they never could find who did it,
I see. Wow.
or they
Okay.
chose not to find who did it. And
So what about the mood? So that was the Brown case, but what about the mood after LBJ signed not the Voting Rights Act, but the Civil Rights Act of 1964, when people had to desegregate?
well, in my hometown, they still didn't desegregate.
Mhm.
Now the case said you have to desegregate at some kind of speed, they call it deliberate speed.
With all deliberate speed?
All deliberate speed. Well, the courts really didn't know what that meant. So in my hometown, integration did not occur until the 70s, even though the law passed in 64, was signed in 64.
So I wonder how they got away with that.
Well, you get away with it until somebody filed a lawsuit. And then you have to prove in court, and you can delay stuff in the court system for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the 70s, they said, it's no more. This is it. So my sisters all finished from an integrated school, but the schools weren't really integrated, because when they forced Louisianians to go to school together, all kind of private schools popped up all over the place. All the black schools were closed, high schools at least, and the white schools were designated as the school where they'd integrate. Well, that white school all of a sudden became all black, because, well, we'd have a few whites. All of the folks with money would go to the private schools, and only the real poor whites, went to the integrated schools. Only a few, of those. And to this day, it's still the same. Yeah.
So you went to college.
Yeah.
Why did you want to go to college?
I can't figure it out, because they had no grants back then. They had no loans. You either had money to pay or you didn't go. And my parents never made minimum wage. I think what happened was I was in the 7th grade, and Mr. Temple was my high school principal. My 7th grade class, we had 30 kids, and some of them were twice as old as I was. And he took 12 of us in a school bus over to Southern University in Baton Rouge. Took us on a Friday. And we stayed in the old Army barracks. And this was and I don't know why he picked 12 of us. And when I got in the Army barracks, I had a cot. First time I ever been in a bed by myself in my life. Before that, all four of my brothers, we slept together in the same little bed. At Southern, they had 2 cafeterias, and I thought they were restaurants. I'd never been in a restaurant. We ate our meals there from Friday through Monday. We went to class Friday with the college students. Went to a pep rally that Friday night. Next Saturday, we went to a football game versus Florida A&M. I never will forget it. Saw the great bands. I saw the kids dressed with proper clothing. I never had proper clothing before. I went home and I told my mama, I'm going to Southern University when I finish high school. I almost cry when I think about that all the time. She cried. She said, we don't have any money. We can't send you to Southern. We're going to get you through high school though, baby. That's why I don't care if you have money. I'm going. And so there was a white guy by the name of Mr. Cecil Pittman. He had a dairy. And he asked my mother, could I help him milk cows every morning before school and after school? And she said yes. I started off making I got up at 4 o'clock every morning. I walked to the barn, helped him milk, walked back home, got ready, caught the bus to school, did the same thing in the evening. He paid me $60 a month. I saved every penny of my $60. I finally got up to $100 before I finished school. I saved every penny from the 7th grade to the 12th grade. And when I went to Southern, I had enough to pay for my schooling for 4 years.
Wow.
And I have a sister that's 2 years younger than I am. I paid for her first 2 years.
Wow.
And then I was broke, after that. And so now, I think to answer your question, I think the reason I went was I had the opportunity to see a university and see what folks did at a university. And I said, that's where I'm going.
Wow. I'm still on this, you milk cows and saved up enough
All my
money to
life.
go to school.
Oh, yeah.
Nowadays, it's like that's not even nearly possible to do that, to have a little part-time job and then pay for 4 years of school.
Well, it is possible, but kids have other values now. I never had a car. Most of my buddies that worked, it wasn't unusual for kids working when I was going to school, but they'd buy a raggedy car. They would buy stereos. And I didn't buy that kind of junk. I said, I know what I want to do.
You didn't have a car coming up?
Well, I never had a car until I was working for Shell Oil Company after I'd graduated.
So you walked everywhere?
I walked everywhere. I called a ride. I even rode the Greyhound bus to Southern University. And so why I did that, I don't know.
Did what you had to do.
But I found out most people think I've been in the military. My life is structured. I figure out what I want to do and can't nobody take me off.
Why do they think you've been in the military?
Because I'm structured. When I go to the gym and work out, I put the weight back where I got them from rather than leaving them all over the place. I don't know why I'm that way.
There's nothing wrong with it. That's good.
Well, most people are not structured like that, though.
So after you retired from the school, you went into, I wouldn't say politics, but you went into public office, if you will. What made you want to run for the board of Aldine?
I didn't. They came to me and asked, would I be interested in running for it?
So they approached you.
I never thought about that.
So how does that happen? I see that happen a lot where I'm from. So I'm not asking who.
Yeah.
But does someone just call you up and say, hey, nobody's applied, why don't you come down and do it? Or we just think you should do it, or there's a vacancy, or how does that go?
Well, what happened in my case, it was Aldine, one of the board members retired because of ill health. And all of a sudden one night I get a call and said, would I be interested in being considered to fill this guy's term? I said, well, I never thought about that. And I said, how'd you get my name? They wouldn't tell me.
Do you know who it was that called? I'm not asking
No,
who it
no.
was, but
What I think happened though was the guy that retired, I hired his son in Klein as a mathematics teacher. And I told that guy, you know, I might consider being on the school board one of these days.
oh, just a
Just
a
out of
remark,
playbook,
just an offhand remark.
And the next thing I knew, a year later, I'm getting this call. But nobody would ever admit it that they were the one that recommended me.
Hmm.
And it just happened all of a sudden, and I did it. And then I had to run for office a couple times after that. I enjoy everything I've done. I've enjoyed. I don't. There's something wrong with me.
No,
I mean, everything I've done, I've enjoyed doing it.
that's good though. That's how you never work a day in your life.
Yeah, and even about a year ago, I received calls from city council people saying, "Why don't you run for District A City Council for the city of Houston?" And I said, "You got it." And I thought about it for a long time. I said, "Nah, I want to stay in education." I told them no.
So when I guess by that time you would have finished your associates, perhaps.
Oh yeah,
And you didn't go to a community college when you were first going to college,
there
right?
was no such thing as community college. There were junior colleges back then,
Mhm.
but people didn't want to go to junior colleges back then. Only the philosophy back then was the only folks who went to junior college were those that couldn't get into a 4-year school.
That
So
was the
they were
mentality.
kind of looked down on because they didn't have grants and stuff back then. You even had to pay to go to junior colleges back then. And so the mentality was, if you can't go to LSU or Southern University, man, you must be dumb as a box of rocks.
Wow. Okay. Well,
And
glad that's changed, right?
Oh, significantly. The community college is the best thing since bubble gum.
I agree. I totally agree with that. I
Everybody
totally
has
agree
an
with
opportunity now, to get schooling and whatever they want from a career perspective or from an enjoyment perspective.
that. So this will be your 6th degree. Is it going to be your last one? Your associates will be your 6th degree. So bachelor's, 3 masters, doctorate, and then your associates.
Yeah, it may be my last degree, but it's not going to be the last time I go to school. I always like to go to school and find stuff that I don't know
Okay.
how to do. I think my next educational pursuit will be a foreign language.
Which one would you like to learn?
If I had to do it now, it'd be Spanish.
Me too. Me too. Well, that's good. I think your last degree being an associate is a very fitting, capstone for as far as getting your degrees, because I think me getting an associate degree, that was a big deal for me to get that degree. That was a very big deal. And to know that the chairman of the board is also a student at Lone Star, it's like, wow, you have to live under the decisions that you helped to make. So even the tuition, you have to live under that too. So I think that's really good. But Dr. Smith, I really look forward to this book that you're going to write. And you can think about this, but when you do write the book, will you come back and speak to me again?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, well, that's the deal.
I'm a plain old country boy. I'm the same.
That's the deal. Okay, Dr. Smith, thank you for being here with me
All right,
today.
appreciate it.
And this is Civic Engagement Media, and we'll see you next time.
They're meaningless 'cause they